Hey everyone, it's Kevin. Welcome back to the channel. So I've been seeing a lot of these really cool 3D printed woven designs, and I wanted to see if I could recreate this look in Blender 3D. Now, I will say I'm still getting used to designing for 3D printing. I started last year and most of my experiments have been with HueForge, which converts 2D illustrations into 3D STLs you can print out. If you're curious about that process, I'll link my video down below. But I've always loved the woven or knit aesthetic, so I thought it would be a fun project to try in 3D. In this video, I'll show you two different ways to create woven textured models in Blender. Each one has its pros and cons, and while I definitely prefer one, both are useful techniques you can use to add texture and detail to your 3D prints. The first method is through displacement. Displacement lets us use a texture map or image to alter the surface of a mesh. So here I have a simple UV sphere that I want to apply a woven texture to. To set this up, go to the modifiers tab, which is this wrench icon, and click add modifier, then select displace. Now we need to bring in a texture. Head over to the texture tab and click new and rename it to woven. Under type, you could use one of Blender's built-in procedural textures, but I've got a woven texture file that you can download for free on my Gumroad, and I'll put a link below in the description. These textures are usually black and white because these values will drive displacement. The white areas push the surface outward, so the high points, while the black areas pull it inwards, the low points. Under settings, I'll go ahead and open that file. At first, it won't look right, so let's go back to the modifiers tab and tweak a few options. First, lower the strength to about 0.1, and that smooths things out, but you'll notice the texture still isn't detailed enough. That's because we need more geometry. To fix that, add a subdivision surface modifier and make sure it's placed above the displace modifier. This splits the current geometry to give us more of it so we can actually see the texture detail. Then increase the viewport levels. The higher the levels, the more we'll see the texture clearly. And just a quick note, levels viewport is what we'll see here in the 3D viewport, and render is if you're planning on rendering it out for an image or animation. Since we're just manipulating geometry, we can use the levels viewport. I found that 5 works best if your computer can handle it, but 4 is usually fine as well. Now, the pattern still looks stretched and warped, so to fix this, change the coordinates of the displace modifier from local to UV map. This tells Blender to follow the UV map of the object, which controls how textures are displayed on a model. To see this, switch the dope sheet down here to the UV editor. In edit mode, press A to select all the points, and you'll see them appear in the editor below. From here, you can select them and rotate, scale, or move the points to adjust the direction and size of the pattern. We can also bring in the texture up here as a visual to help guide us on how our texture is laid out along the meshes. When you're happy with the look and want to print it out, you'll need to apply your modifiers. The quick way is by going to object mode, hitting Ctrl A, and then selecting visual geometry to mesh. But if you'd rather apply it one by one, make sure to do it from top to bottom in the stack because there is a hierarchy. Hover over each one and then hit Ctrl A. So this works fine on a sphere, but what if you want something more practical like a bowl? This is where displacement gets a little trickier. Here's a simple bowl I made just from slicing up that previous sphere. First, apply scale on the object with Ctrl A so everything is set to 1. This ensures that any modifiers we add behave correctly. Then let's thicken it with a solidify modifier, keeping it fairly thin, and apply it. Next, we only want to displace the outside surface faces, so in edit mode, switch to face select by hitting 3, alt-click to loop select the top ring of outside faces, and then shift alt-click to add the rest of the outer faces. Now in the Object Data Properties tab, create a new vertex group, call it outer points, and then hit assign. This lets us group these outer points and make it easy to select them. Back in the modifiers tab, add a displace modifier, load in the same woven texture, set the coordinates to UV, strength to 0.1, and under vertex group, choose outer points. When we switch to object mode, you'll notice the texture only affects that group. Again, add a subdivision surface modifier above the displace and set it to 4 or 5 levels. The texture looks decent now, but you'll probably notice some distortion at the top and bottom. To clean this up, we can loop select the rings near the top and bottom edge in edit mode and removing them from the vertex group until it looks good. And back in object mode, the result should look much cleaner. If you want more control over the direction of the weave, you can unwrap the outer faces manually by selecting them in edit mode and hitting U to unwrap, or adding seams to guide the unwrapping. In the UV editor, bring in the texture here to help understand how the texture is mapped onto the mesh. It might be a little challenging to look exactly the way that you want, but it could still work. The final quality really depends on both your texture and geometry. And side note, if you end up adding too much geometry after applying everything, you can add a decimate modifier to simplify the mesh while keeping the details. Just lower the ratio until it works for you. However, be mindful this can be processing heavy on your hardware. Once you're done, make sure to apply it as well. Using this method, I was able to create these fun pumpkins and bowl. So this can work for other effects too, not just woven ones, as long as you have the right image texture. The second method is using a feature in Blender called Celtic Links. To demo this, I'll use a simple bowl I made from a UV sphere. Now, to enable the feature, go up to Edit, Preferences, Get Extensions, and install Extra Curve Objects. You can check if it's active in the Add-ons tab. Now, with that active, select your bowl, press Shift A, and under Curve, you'll see a new category with a few extra options. Under Knots, choose Celtic Links. This will generate a new curve object based on your mesh, and it'll appear wherever your 3D cursor is. If it shows up in the wrong place, you can just delete it, move the 3D cursor by shift right clicking wherever you want, and then you can add it again. If we expand the menu in the bottom left corner of the viewport, you'll see the Celtic Links settings. To get the woven look, adjust the weave up and weave down values, and I'll set mine to 0.03 and -0.03 respectively. The bevel depth controls how thick the strands are, so I'll set this to around 0.07. And now we have our own woven bowl. To make it printable, right-click and select Convert to Mesh. At this point, it's a lot of curve-based geometry, so I like to clean it up with a remesh modifier, and this helps make sure everything is manifold. You can slowly lower this value depending on what your system can handle and the level of detail you want, but the value that'll work for me is around 0.005. Now we can apply this. If the geometry feels too heavy, you can add a decimate modifier like we did previously to simplify it. And again, feel free to go by whatever value works for you and then apply it. To make this into a functional bowl, I can just add a flat bottom plate, join it together with the original woven mesh by selecting both and hitting Ctrl J to join, and then it's ready to send off to print. The result is really clean. The woven pattern is sharp and detailed, but keep in mind it generates a lot of geometry. That makes it less flexible to tweak after the fact, so you want to plan your settings carefully before committing. This method worked best for my purposes, and I was able to create this modular face pot, but I had to make some adjustments to create some holes at the bottom and remove some of the woven geometry inside the pot, and I think it worked out. So those are some ways you can create woven textured designs in Blender for 3D printing. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if you end up creating something woven for 3D print. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to check out my other videos on 3D printing like this beginner's guide where we create a keychain, or this video where we create pots. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.